back to Literary Gladiators. What's up, guys?
The ceiling.
Thank you, Charlie. We're your hosts today.
Nicole.
Christine.
Charlie.
And Josh.
So we're going to talk about another work today. So Rob, what are we talking about?
We Are Seven by William Wordsworth.
Ooh, excellent.
Mentally, I'm 7.
Okay.
Wordsworth is quite the genuine mind, British transcendentalist.
British.
Per se.
Pretty wordy. Thank you.
Okay, I was waiting for the drum.
I know, I do it myself.
I love Wordsworth. Okay, what's the first question?
The child is determined there are 7. Is this innocence or loyalty?
A little bit of both, but I would lean toward innocence in a way, because children are a bit more consistent minded. They're a bit, they think more narrowly, straightforward in a way.
I think it's a little bit of both as well, but I'm going toward the loyalty side because, as you said, most children are consistent-minded. Some children might be, coming at a psychological standpoint, they could be more adept to the world, and they might be saying, okay, something's not right. I'm losing my siblings, so I'm thinking it's more loyalty. It means by saying, when she's saying to the stranger, we are 7. We are 7. We are 7, man! Just trying to say, no matter what happens, we are a family. We are family.
The way that the gentleman sees this is, if you're living, then you're here.
Yeah, and if you're
the way she sees it is, if whether you're living or you were once living, you are still here in a way, whether it's through memory, through spirit.
I think because Wordsworth always loved implementing innocence in children as, closer to God, closer to nature, closer to really pure emotions. So to have the child say, my dead sibling is still here, he's lost that because probably at one point he would have said that as a child. And it's both. I agree completely because having, innocence and loyalty. But innocence would mean, he's gone, my sibling's gone, but yet I know he was here.
They can feel it. They have that gut feeling.
I'm going to say it's going with the transcendental theme. It is innocence, but I also think there's a factor of naivety. I think it's that kind of castle that kids start building around themselves when bad things happen, and they focus on the positive to neglect the negative, and I think it's his way of coping.
At the same time, it's encouraged. He encourages the innocence of children. Mm-hmm. He encourages their exploration of thinking that, wow, these people may be gone, they're still here. And it just so happened that about 15 years after the poem was written, Wordsworth lost 2 of his own children at very young ages, within 6 months of one another. This poem came about before that, but it
is, as you said, it's encouraged, and I feel like if it's a way of preserving that innocence to have this outlook on the circumstance. It's because there's so many things, so many different life events that taint children as they grow, but it really is not the hand you're dealt, but how you play your cards. And by this technique of coping and acceptance of the death and choosing to focus on that person's still being around and still acknowledging their presence even if they're not physically there is definitely a way of preserving that innocence amongst the children.
And this child can get away with the way that she interacts with her deceased siblings. I can only imagine a 30-year-old person doing the same thing. There's probably people that do that.
Oh, what, like go to the grave and the whole
There are
bit?
probably
the
names for those people.
They go to the grave,
Red flowers.
I know there's people, they dump a cup of coffee on the if that's what they share.
Asian cultures have dinner with the grave as well. Like they'll go and sit and have dinner like once a year, I believe. And so that is because they're keeping them kind of in their family, in their life, so that they're not forgotten, which is almost kind of trying to preserve the innocence of they're not dead.
Yeah, and in Mexico, the Day of the Dead.
Yes.
Dias de los Muertos.
Bless you.
Okay, next question.
Is Wordsworth saying there will eventually have to be an end to one's innocence, or pointing out that there are more than one view on death, life, afterlife?
In the eyes of society, if somebody wants to grow, they need to adapt to society. Whether or not that's right or wrong is in the eyes of the individual, and someone like Wordsworth disagrees with such a notion, as do most transcendentalists.
I think the bringing up the end of innocence is important because so many, I think modern critics, not just of literature, but of many different topics, tend to view that and classify that with like the growth of sexuality. And psychology is big on this too, but I think by looking at the loss of innocence through a different topic such as death really shows, Wordsworth is trying to show that innocence isn't just revolving around, sexual nature. There are a lot of things that can strip one's innocence. And I think that's an important point.
Yeah.
I think also because the author is kind of caught off guard by the very innocent way she's saying things and how, unaware she is that really there's something that's gone, that it's kind of shocking that he realizes that he's lost his own because he's making it clear, no, you're 6, what are you doing? You're not 7. So I think it's also to show that there is that loss.
Next question.
Both 7 and 5 are mystic numbers. Do you think Wordsworth chose these numbers on purpose? Why?
With regard, I remember 5 and 7 in the way that I had a teacher back in high school who adored the number 5, but felt that the number 7, there was something wrong with it, which it just so happens I had computer 5, and she would always use that computer when she needed to do something.
7's my favorite number.
I don't know, they always say lucky 7, so it's...
7 and 13 have always been good to me, but I think that I don't think, when I like to think of poetry and great poets, I know there's a certain amount of detail and forethought that goes into it, but I do like to think that some of it is just coincidental and some of it is just... And this poet, wrote this poem, and it's 5 lines, we can delve all day into the depth of it, or it could just be about plums, so I think it's the same circumstance. I think they could just be numbers.
That was in Britlet 1, there's 2 ways of looking at a poem. There's the way that you look at a poem as a poem, and the other way where you look at a poem as an encrypted message.
Yeah,
yes.
what's really strange is Hawthorne wrote House of 7 Gables. It's like 7 Gables. I got to the house. And they're like, yeah, no, there wasn't 7 gables. There was, I think they said 4 or 5. And that's what Hawthorne saw when he went there. So it wasn't even like, he saw a house with 7 gables. He just decided, I want to say, yes, they're mystic numbers, but I think with the overuse that maybe so many people's lucky numbers were 7, that they just started using it.
The 7 layers of hell? I mean, come on.
It'd take a few more years of Wordsworth research to figure out if he was a numerologist.
Yeah, it's probably deep in a book somewhere where you're just writing things. Okay, so next.
With the mentioning of death and other cultures, I did kind of want to expand on that because that is what I personally, as a non-Christian, viewed the poem as, is maybe without meaning to, he did take a pagan stance on death, and that it isn't necessarily the end. The child is saying, yes, it is innocence, but they are there in spirit.
I think because he was so in the transcendental movement, and I always think about it that way, is that, the child is very important to it, and that, I don't know, the reincarnation, most Christians don't believe that much in reincarnation, so, but then also they believe, they go up to heaven or they go to hell or they go purgatory, wherever, but, having that person in spirit is so nice because it's very much nature and spirit.
Not all Christians believe in purgatory either.
Yeah. No. I mean, come on, there's how many branches? I can't.
No matter what you believe, though, when you lose someone, I feel like you always feel their presence.
Yeah. And
even if it's not a deep spiritual, this person is a floating orb,
Yeah.
around my life, you still feel them in everything you do, in every picture you see, and everything that reminds you of them. They're still with you.
And you can get a sign at any time. Someone could flicker the lights, you know. That happened to me once, you know. But that's a personal story.
I think because he's using, you know, he's using a child and having that spirit come back and still be in the life is something not many people would want to hold on to. A lot of people would just want to forget the dead. And the child's still bringing that child, the child's bringing the dead sibling in. And I think because they are, isn't it like they're in the woods or they're close to nature?
Yeah,
I know that.
they are close.
They're close to nature.
They're out in the yard area.
Yeah, because they're close to nature, so the child's kind of living in spirit in the trees. That's always how I've pictured it.
And that's what the Transcendentalists encourage.
Yeah. So, I mean, I could see Wordsworth doing that. Like,
Thoreau did the same thing. Physically.
Yeah,
I hate Thoreau. We're not talking about Thoreau.
Get it, Thoreau.
We can go on a whole nother discussion about Thoreau.
Thoreau brings up too many points.
Throw him out the window.
I'll disagree, but go on.
So, if you want to read We Are Seven, we would love for you to read We Are Seven before you watch this video. So you can either, I'm going to post a link in the bottom of the video where you can read We Are Seven.
Or you can buy this collection of William Wordsworth's selected poems. This version is from Penguin Classics. You can get it off of Amazon, or if you go on a deep search into Barnes & Noble, you'll probably be able to find it there.
So we hope you enjoyed this video. We hope that you subscribe to this channel so that you see another video each week. Thank you for watching Literary Gladiators.
Join us back next time.
Farewell, friends.